Good evening, my friend. Tonight I invite you to step into a journey, not just of knowledge, but of transformation. This is the world of Napoleon Hill's Keys to Success, a world where every lesson is like a lantern guiding you through the dark corridors of doubt, fear, and wasted potential. Imagine, for a moment, that your life is a great ship drifting on an endless sea. The waves push you one way, the winds another. And sometimes, in the silence of the night, you wonder, where is this vessel truly going? What if you could grip the wheel with both hands, chart a definite course, and steer toward a harbor of your own choosing? That is the question Hill poses to us. If you find this summary helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Book Snap, and comment below the title of the book you'd like us to summarize next. We'll make it happen soon. The truth is, most people live without ever asking that question. They wake, they work, they sleep, they repeat. And yet, deep within them, there is a whisper, a restless call, urging them to search for something more. A life that isn't just lived by chance, but by design. Napoleon Hill, through decades of study with the most successful minds of his era, believed there was no accident in greatness. Success had keys, and those keys could be discovered, held, and used by anyone willing to open the door. As you sit here listening, think of your own life as a tapestry woven with choices. Some threads are bright, moments of triumph, clarity, love. Others are darker, mistakes, regrets, or the heavy weight of lost opportunities. Hill reminds us that every tapestry can be rewoven, every design reshaped, once you decide to hold the loom of your own destiny. His first call to us is not a command, but a question. What is your purpose? Without it, even the most talented person drifts like a leaf in the wind. With it, even the most ordinary life becomes extraordinary. Picture a young man standing at the crossroads of his life. He has skills, he has energy, but no direction. One road stretches toward comfort, routine, and the endless cycle of living just enough. The other is shrouded in fog, uncertain, but pulsing with the possibility of greatness. Which would you choose? Hill would say, the foggy road, guided not by clarity of sight, but by definiteness of purpose. Because purpose does what light does in the darkness. It doesn't remove the night, but it shows you the next step. Success, Hill argues, is not a treasure buried in some far-off land. It is a fire waiting to be kindled inside you. Every ember begins with a spark, and that spark is the moment you decide what your life is for. Until then, energy is scattered, potential wasted, time spilled like water through open fingers. But once you declare, "This is my aim, this is my calling," the waters gather into a mighty river, cutting valleys, turning wheels, generating power that moves everything it touches. And yet, to even begin, you must dare to look within. The greatest tragedy, Hill warns, is not failure. It is never attempting, never defining, never claiming your place in the world's story. Too many drift because they fear the responsibility of choosing. But those who rise, those who build, those who inspire, they begin by answering the most personal of questions. What is my purpose? This is where our journey begins. Tonight, as Hill's wisdom unfolds, I ask you to imagine yourself not as a passive listener, but as the hero of this tale. Each key we uncover is not an abstract principle, but a tool laid in your hand. Imagine the weight of it, the promise of it. As the story unfolds, you will be asked, quietly, persistently, to use these tools to shape your own life. So breathe deeply, settle in, and let us open the first door together. Behind it lies a truth both simple and profound. No life can rise above the aim it sets for itself. And in the chapters ahead, you will discover not just why purpose matters, but how to seize it, sharpen it, and let it guide you through the storms that await. The journey begins with a single flame: definiteness of purpose. Napoleon Hill calls it the starting point of all achievement, and he does so with reason. Imagine for a moment trying to light a fire with damp wood. You strike match after match, yet nothing catches. But place those sparks against dry kindling, and suddenly, the flame leaps to life, steady and powerful. So it is with our lives. Without a clear purpose, our efforts scatter and die out. With it, everything ignites. Think of the countless men and women who drift through years, even decades, without ever naming what they truly want. They work jobs they dislike, chase goals they never chose, live days that blur into sameness. Why? Because they never dared to define their purpose. They sail without a compass, hoping chance winds will carry them somewhere worth arriving. But chance winds rarely do. Now picture a different path. A man who knows, beyond all doubt, what he seeks. He wakes with a clarity that pulls him out of bed. His decisions, once tangled with hesitation, are now simple. Does this bring me closer to my purpose, or does it not? This clarity is like a lighthouse, steady against the storm, guiding him toward the shore he has chosen. That is the power Hill speaks of. Definiteness of purpose turns ordinary lives into focused, unstoppable journeys. And yet, it is not just about ambition. A definite purpose is more than a wish. It is a commitment. Wishes are like feathers. They drift. Purpose is like stone. It anchors. Hill believed that until you choose one aim, with heart and mind united, you will never unlock your full potential. For purpose shapes behavior, behavior builds habit, and habit forges destiny. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, what would your life look like if you knew exactly why you were here? Not a vague hope, not a list of scattered desires, but one true aim, burning like a star at the center of your existence. How would you walk differently? Speak differently? What things would you refuse because they no longer fit into the story of your life? That clarity would free you. It would be as though the fog lifted and the horizon stretched wide before you. But Hill did not leave us with inspiration alone. He gave us a challenge. Write it down. Define it. Shape it into words so sharp and clear that even in your darkest hour, you can read them and remember who you are. This purpose should not be borrowed from others, nor should it be vague enough to be forgotten. It must be yours, bold and unwavering. Purpose has another gift. It attracts. When you know what you stand for, you begin to draw toward you the people, opportunities, and resources that align with your vision. It is as though the universe bends ever so slightly, nudging you closer to the aim you carry inside. Those who wander without aim often complain of bad luck. Those with purpose find that fortune seems to meet them halfway. Napoleon Hill watched this truth unfold in the lives of men like Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford. None were born with privilege so great that success was guaranteed. But each carried within them a purpose so strong that failure could not keep them down for long. Edison's countless failed experiments were not wasted. They were steps on the road to his purpose. Ford's setbacks in business were not the end. They were adjustments to his aim. Carnegie's rise from poverty was not by chance. It was by design, driven by a purpose so clear it silenced doubt. Now as you listen, imagine standing before a blank canvas. This canvas is your life yet to be lived. You hold the brush, but the question is, what image will you paint? Without a definite vision, your strokes will scatter. But with a purpose chosen, every color, every line, every detail adds to the masterpiece you have decided upon. And so, Hill urges us, choose. Choose with courage, for this is the foundation upon which all other keys to success will rest. Without definiteness of purpose, the rest collapse into fragments. With it, even the storms of adversity cannot break you. This is the first great key: the fire, the stone, the lighthouse. Without it, you drift. With it, you rise. And as the flame steadies in your hand, the next question emerges. If purpose is the goal, how do we find the strength to reach it? Hill's answer is simple: not alone. The journey ahead requires others. For one flame lights the way, but many flames together create a blazing fire that nothing can extinguish. If definiteness of purpose is the compass, then the Mastermind Alliance is the wind that fills the sails. Napoleon Hill calls it the principle that multiplies power, a secret force created when minds come together, united in trust and a shared goal. Alone, even the strongest flame flickers. Together, flames merge into a firestorm. Picture yourself in a dimly lit workshop. You carry a single candle, its light small but steady. Then, one by one, others enter. Each brings their own candle, their own light. Soon the room is not dim at all. It is radiant, glowing so brightly that every shadow vanishes. This is the Mastermind Alliance. It is the joining of intelligence, energy, and spirit between people who believe in one another, pooling their strengths to achieve what none could alone. Hill learned this lesson by observing the titans of his time. Andrew Carnegie, whose empire of steel reshaped nations, confessed to Hill that his wealth was not the result of his genius alone. It was the combined genius of a mastermind group, trusted men who brought ideas, solutions, and perspectives he could never possess on his own. Carnegie's fortune was not built by steel alone, but by minds united in harmony. But here lies the secret. Not every alliance is a mastermind. Hill warned that to create one, there must be more than contracts and meetings. There must be trust, faith, a genuine willingness to give as well as to receive. A mastermind is not merely a circle of colleagues. It is a brotherhood or sisterhood of the mind, where egos step aside and collective wisdom takes the throne. Think of an orchestra. One violin can sing beautifully, but it cannot create a symphony. Only when violins, cellos, flutes, and drums blend together under a shared purpose does the music transcend individual sound. The Mastermind Alliance is life's orchestra, where each person's unique note contributes to a harmony far greater than any single player could achieve. Now consider your own life. Who are the people closest to you? Do they lift you toward your purpose, or do they drain your strength? Hill would ask you to look carefully, for the company you keep can either build your empire or burn your dreams to ash. To form a mastermind alliance, you must seek those who share your vision, or at least respect it, and who bring qualities you lack: intelligence to sharpen your strategy, encouragement to fuel your faith, discipline to balance your weaknesses. Hill believed the power of the mastermind was not just psychological, it was almost spiritual. When two or more minds align with harmony and belief, he said, a third mind emerges. This invisible mind, greater than the sum of its parts, seems to draw inspiration, insight, and energy from beyond. Have you ever felt it? That moment when brainstorming with others becomes electric, when ideas leap across the table like sparks, when solutions appear that no single person could have imagined alone. That is the mastermind at work. But there is another side to this truth, a warning. Just as a mastermind can build, it can destroy. Negative alliances, filled with envy, doubt, or selfishness, are like anchors tied to your ship. They will drag you down, no matter how strong your purpose. Hill insisted that you must guard your associations with the same vigilance you would guard a treasure chest. For the people around you will either sharpen your vision or cloud it. They will either fuel your courage or feed your fear. So, Hill asks us, who belongs in your mastermind? Perhaps it is a mentor, someone whose wisdom shines a light on paths you cannot yet see. Perhaps it is a friend who refuses to let you quit when the night is darkest. Perhaps it is a partner who believes in your purpose so fiercely that their faith becomes your own. Together, These allies form not just a network, but a sanctuary of power. Imagine climbing a mountain alone. Every stone feels heavier, every gust of wind sharper. But now, imagine climbing with a team. One sets the pace, another steadies the rope, another encourages when your strength falters. The summit that once seemed impossible now rises within reach. That is the gift of the Mastermind Alliance. It makes the climb not only possible, but transformative. And as you gather your allies, remember this. The Mastermind is not just about taking, it is about giving. Bring your own strengths, your own encouragement, your own loyalty to the table. For the Mastermind thrives on mutual exchange, a current of energy flowing back and forth, enriching all who belong. So here we stand, with two keys now in hand. Purpose to set the course, and alliance to multiply the strength. But even with these, a question remains. What will keep you moving forward when doubt whispers, when storms rise, when the goal seems impossibly far? Hill's answer lies not in logic, but in faith, a faith that is not blind, but active, fierce, and alive. Faith, not the quiet, passive kind that waits for miracles, but the living, breathing force that Napoleon Hill called applied faith. This is the bridge between desire and reality, the invisible current that carries you from where you are to where you long to be. Without it, even the strongest purpose falters. With it, mountains bend, storms break, and impossible doors swing wide. Think for a moment about the unseen forces that govern our lives. You cannot see gravity, yet it holds you to the earth. You cannot see the wind, yet it fills your lungs and moves the oceans. Hill believed faith is much the same, unseen, but undeniable in its power. It is the energy that fuels persistence, the conviction that turns dreams into plans and plans into results. But Hill drew an important line. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith without action is like planting seeds in barren soil. Nothing grows. Applied faith is belief set into motion. It is rising from your bed with the certainty that what you seek will come, and then moving your feet, stretching your hands, speaking your words as though it already belongs to you. Picture a man who has chosen his purpose and gathered allies to his side. Yet doubts creep in. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if I am not enough? These thoughts are shadows that creep into every mind. Hill's lesson is clear. Only faith burns those shadows away. Faith says, I may not yet see the outcome, but I trust the process, and I act as though success is already mine. To cultivate such faith, Hill suggested beginning with the mind's own language, affirmations, thoughts, words spoken with conviction. Have you ever noticed how repeated thoughts shape belief? Whisper to yourself every day that you are weak, and soon weakness feels like truth. But declare with persistence that you are capable, destined, prepared. And in time, your mind begins to obey. Applied faith grows from this soil, the daily planting of positive expectation until belief becomes as natural as breath. Yet faith is tested in fire. Imagine Thomas Edison, failing thousands of times before inventing the electric light. To outsiders, his persistence looked like folly. But inside Edison burned a faith so strong, he once said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That is applied faith, the unshaken conviction that the result already exists, and each step, even missteps, are only part of finding it. Consider, too, Henry Ford, who declared that he would build a motor engine no one believed possible. His engineers told him it couldn't be done. Experts shook their heads. But Ford's faith was ironclad. He told his team to keep working, no matter how long it took. Months turned into years, and still he believed. And then, the breakthrough came. the impossible engine became reality. Without applied faith, Ford would have surrendered to doubt. With it, he rewrote the future of industry. Now bring this lesson closer to home. Think of a dream you once carried, a quiet vision that perhaps you buried under fear or the judgment of others. What if you dared to believe again? What if you chose faith, not as a vague hope, but as a command to your own heart? Act as though it is already yours. How would your choices change? How would your steps quicken? Faith is not about waiting for certainty. It is about creating certainty through action. Hill often said, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Notice the sequence: conceive, believe, achieve. Purpose is the conception, faith is the belief, and action delivers the achievement. Without faith, the chain breaks and the dream dies unborn. But with faith, even the unseen becomes inevitable. Still, Hill offered another reminder. Faith does not erase struggle. It does not remove hardship. It does not guarantee comfort. What it guarantees is endurance. The storms still come, but the man of faith walks through them with eyes fixed on the horizon. The night still falls, but faith assures him the dawn will rise. Applied faith, then, is the quiet voice that says, "Keep going," when logic says, "Quit." It is the steady hand that builds again after failure. It is the courage to walk into the unknown, not because you see the path, but because you trust it will appear as you move forward. And so, as Hill places this key in our hands, the lesson glows clear. Purpose sets your course. Alliance strengthens your journey. Faith fuels your every step. But there is another secret waiting just ahead. Even with faith, too many stop short. They do only what is asked, give only what is required, and wonder why rewards are small. Hill's answer is simple, but profound. To unlock life's treasures, you must learn to go the extra mile. There is a hidden road in life, one that few ever walk. Napoleon Hill called it going the extra mile. At first glance, it may seem ordinary, to give more than you are paid for, to serve beyond what is expected. But beneath its surface lies a quiet magic, a law as sure as gravity. When you pour out more than the world asks, the world eventually overflows back into your life. Picture two workers side by side. One does exactly what is required, no less, no more. His hours are predictable, his effort measured. He receives his wage, but nothing beyond. The other, however, lingers after the clock, finishes tasks with extra care, offers ideas when none are demanded. At first, both men seem equal, their pay the same. But over time, a gap opens. Opportunities whisper to the second man. Trust is placed upon him. Doors open, connections form, rewards multiply. Why? Because he walked the hidden road. Hill insisted this principle was not mere morality. It was strategy. When you give more than expected, you plant invisible seeds. Employers, partners, even strangers may not notice at first. But life notices. Energy given freely does not vanish. It circles back, often in ways unpredictable and grander than you imagined. Going the extra mile becomes a law of compensation, where your abundance multiplies itself. Think of a farmer scattering more seed than the field demands. The soil cannot help but return a greater harvest. Or imagine a musician practicing not just until he plays the notes right, but until he cannot play them wrong. This devotion, unseen in the moment, eventually bursts forth as mastery. Such is the power of the extra mile. But Hill also knew the resistance that rises inside us. Why should I give more if I'm not paid more? The answer is simple. The extra mile is not about immediate pay. It is about building character, reputation, and momentum that no one can steal. The man who only gives for what he is paid remains chained to his wage. The one who gives more than he receives is already walking into freedom, for he has tapped into a force that grows beyond contracts and salaries. Hill loved to remind readers of this truth. No one can ever keep you from going the extra mile. You may be denied promotion, ignored, overlooked, but no one can stop you from giving more than required. And because of this, no one can stop the rewards that follow. They may be delayed, they may arrive through unexpected doors, but arrive they will. Think of a young clerk in a small store. Day after day, he greets customers with warmth, organizes the shelves with care, learns the craft far beyond his duty. His employer notices, perhaps slowly, perhaps not at all. But one day, a customer sees his dedication and offers him a chance beyond the store. Years later, the clerk owns his own business. The path was not paved with luck, but with unseen miles walked in devotion. Now turn inward. Ask yourself, in your own work, your own relationships, your own dreams, where are you walking only the required steps? Where might you take one step more? That one step, repeated daily, compounds into a journey few dare to make. There is also beauty here, for the extra mile transforms not just results, but the soul itself. It breeds patience, resilience, humility. It shifts the mind from scarcity, how little can I give, to abundance, how much can I create? This shift is subtle but revolutionary, for it teaches you that wealth is not merely money, but the richness of service, trust, and honor you carry into the world. And yet, Hill warned, going the extra mile must be genuine, not manipulation. Do it not with the expectation of immediate return, but with the quiet certainty that return will come in its own season. Like planting an orchard, you do not stand by the soil demanding fruit the next morning. You water, you wait, you trust. And then, one day, the branches bend heavy with abundance. As you hear this, perhaps a memory rises of a time when someone went the extra mile for you. A teacher who stayed after class, a friend who showed up when you didn't ask, a stranger who gave more than expected. Do you remember how it felt? The impact was far greater than the act itself. So it is with every mile you walk beyond the required, you leave echoes in the lives of others, echoes that return when you least expect. Purpose sets your path. Alliance multiplies your strength. Faith keeps you moving. But going the extra mile, that is the secret that turns a journey into a legacy. For the world does not remember those who did only what was asked. It remembers those who gave more, loved more, served more. And just beyond this hidden road lies another truth. For even as you walk farther, give more, serve deeper, you must also carry something within yourself, a magnetism that opens hearts and doors. Hill called it a pleasing personality, the quiet charm that transforms effort into influence. There is a kind of wealth that cannot be measured in coins or contracts, the wealth of character, of presence, of the way a person makes others feel. Napoleon Hill called it a pleasing personality. And though the phrase may sound simple, its power is immense. For you may have purpose, allies, faith, and even the discipline to go the extra mile. But without a personality that attracts, rather than repels, doors remain closed. Think of the times you've met someone whose very presence seemed to soften the air in the room. Their words were not forced. Their smile was genuine. Their attention made you feel as though you mattered. Such a person carries an invisible key, opening opportunities that effort alone cannot unlock. This is not manipulation. It is the art of being sincerely human, of embodying qualities that others long to be near. Hill observed that success is rarely built in isolation. We rise with others, through others, for others, and the bridge that connects us is personality. But not every personality pleases. Some people are brilliant, skilled, even hardworking, yet their arrogance, bitterness, or coldness turns every encounter into a closed gate. Hill warned that this is like owning a treasure chest with no key. You may hold gold within you, but if no one wishes to open the chest, your wealth remains hidden. So what shapes a pleasing personality? Hill described it not as charm in the shallow sense, but as a harmony of traits: kindness, courtesy, humility, enthusiasm, and the ability to listen as well as speak. It is the discipline of managing your tone, your expressions, your words, so they inspire rather than wound. It is the choice to meet others not with indifference, but with the warmth that says, "You are valued here." Picture a man with immense ambition. He works hard, yet everywhere he goes, conflict follows. His temper erupts, his ego dominates, his impatience burns. Bridges. He wonders why opportunities slip through his hands. Now picture another man, less skilled perhaps, but gracious, attentive, sincere. He remembers names, honors promises, treats even the lowly with dignity. In time, doors open for him that the first man could never force. This is the subtle, compounding power of personality. But here is the deeper truth Hill revealed. Personality is not fixed. It is not a gift given only to the lucky few. It can be shaped, cultivated, refined. Just as iron is forged into steel, so can your habits of thought and speech forge a character that attracts goodwill. Each day, in every encounter, you are either polishing or corroding your personality, and the reflection others see will determine much of the success you experience. Hill often spoke of enthusiasm as one of the most magnetic traits. Genuine enthusiasm is contagious. It lifts spirits, inspires confidence, and draws others into your vision. Have you ever felt yourself drawn to someone simply because they radiated belief and energy? That is enthusiasm at work. But it must be authentic. Forced cheerfulness rings hollow, but genuine conviction that burns bright enough to ignite others. Another vital trait is the ability to listen. So many rush to speak, to impress, to prove themselves. But the one who listens deeply, with patience and attention, earns trust. Hill believed that listening was one of the greatest gifts of personality, for it reveals humility, the quiet admission that others matter as much as you. And trust, once earned, is a coin more valuable than any currency. Now, reflect for a moment. How do others feel in your presence? Do they feel seen, valued, encouraged? Or do they feel overlooked, dismissed, diminished? Hill challenges us to carry a mirror, not for vanity, but for awareness. For every encounter plants a seed in the memory of others, and the harvest of those seeds, opportunities, friendships, trust, depends on the personality you choose to cultivate. Consider this. A pleasing personality does not mean avoiding firmness or suppressing truth. It means delivering even hard truths with respect, guiding even through conflict with grace. Leaders who mastered this art, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Gandhi, moved nations not through command alone, but through character. Their words carried weight because their presence carried respect. So, in this key, Hill hands us not just advice but responsibility. You cannot control how others act toward you, but you can always control how you act toward them. And over time, that choice shapes not only how they see you, but who you become. Purpose gives you direction. Alliance gives you strength. Faith fuels your steps. Extra miles compound your service. But personality, that is the fragrance of the journey, the invisible influence that turns effort into invitation. And yet, Hill knew that even the most pleasing personality can collapse without an inner fortress. For what use is charm if it masks chaos? What use is warmth if your own impulses undo you? That fortress, Hill tells us, is built brick by brick through the mastery of self-discipline, of self-discipline, of self-discipline, of self-discipline. There comes a moment in every journey where the enemy is not outside, but within. You may have purpose, allies, faith, and even a personality that draws others to your side. But if you cannot govern yourself, your habits, your impulses, your emotions, then every victory risks being undone. Napoleon Hill named this fortress self-discipline, and he warned that without it, no other key can endure. Picture a rider on a powerful stallion. The animal is strong, swift, eager to run. Yet without reins, without guidance, its strength is dangerous. It can bolt into ravines, stumble into chaos, even throw the rider to the ground. So it is with human potential. Our talents, passions, and ambitions are powerful, but unless harnessed by discipline, they scatter us into failure. Self-discipline is the reins, the steady hand that directs raw energy into purposeful motion. Hill taught that discipline begins with the mind. The thoughts you allow, the habits you cultivate, the appetites you indulge, all of these form the scaffolding of your destiny. If you surrender to every passing desire, you build a life of weakness. But if you learn to master desire, to delay gratification, to control anger, to resist distraction, then you build a life of strength. Discipline is freedom disguised as restraint. Think of the man who wakes each morning with purpose but cannot resist the comfort of sleep. Or the woman who dreams of building wealth but spends impulsively, each purchase cutting her future short. Their goals are noble, their intentions sincere, but without discipline, intentions crumble. Contrast this with the one who trains the will, who rises even when tired, who saves even when tempted, who speaks with patience even when anger burns. That one forges character as unshakable as iron. But discipline is not punishment. Hill reminded us that it is, in fact, a form of love. Love for your future self. Every act of discipline says, I care more for who I will be tomorrow than for the fleeting comfort of today. It is choosing the long road, not because it is harder, but because it leads to the summit. Consider great athletes. They sacrifice comfort, follow strict regimens, and endure grueling practice. From the outside, it looks like suffering. But the athlete knows, each repetition, each refusal of indulgence, each disciplined choice shapes the body, sharpens the mind, and prepares them for victory. So it is with all of us. Discipline is the practice ground where greatness is forged in secret long before it is revealed in public. Hill often spoke of emotional discipline as the rarest and most valuable of all. How many friendships, careers, even nations have been ruined by uncontrolled anger, jealousy, or fear? He warned that those who cannot govern their emotions are like ships without rudders, tossed by every storm. But the disciplined person learns to pause, to breathe, to respond rather than react. They build an inner calm that no insult, no setback, no sudden storm can steal. That calm, Hill said, is a form of power that others instinctively respect. Now reflect on your own habits. Where do impulses rule you? Perhaps it is procrastination, stealing hours that could build your dreams. Perhaps it is indulgence, promising comfort but leaving regret. Perhaps it is pride, demanding the last word at the cost of peace. Hill does not condemn these flaws. He simply reminds us, each one can be mastered, each one can be retrained. Self-discipline is not perfection, but persistence, the daily choice to rise one step higher. And here lies a hidden gift. Discipline compounds. The first days of change are hard, like lifting stones up a hill. But with practice, the stones grow lighter. Habits take root, and what was once a struggle becomes second nature. The one who once resisted discipline now lives within it, and freedom flows where once chains were felt. But perhaps the most inspiring truth Hill offers is this: self-discipline is the foundation of trust. People may admire talent, they may enjoy personality, but they place their faith in the disciplined. For discipline means reliability. It means promises kept, tempers controlled, goals pursued with steady effort. Discipline makes you dependable, and dependability is the cornerstone of leadership. So Hill places this key in our hands with a solemn warning: master yourself, or be mastered by your weaker self. The choice is yours. With self-discipline, every other key is strengthened. Without it, every other key is fragile. And once you hold this fortress firm, another question emerges: how do you channel this disciplined energy? For energy scattered is wasted. Hill's next revelation is about a principle as sharp as a blade: the art of controlled attention, where focus turns ordinary effort into unstoppable power. Focus. It is the difference between sunlight that warms your skin and sunlight concentrated through a magnifying glass that burns wood into flame. Napoleon Hill called this principle controlled attention, and he considered it the force that turns discipline into power. For discipline gives you the ability to direct yourself, but focus decides where that energy goes. Without it, effort scatters. With it, effort pierces. Imagine standing at the edge of a wide river, tossing pebbles one after another into the water. Each pebble makes a ripple, but the river keeps flowing, unchanged. Now imagine taking a single boulder and dropping it into the same river. The splash is massive, the waves reach the shore, and the current bends around the stone. That is controlled attention. Not many small ripples, but one concentrated impact that changes the flow. Hill warned that most people dilute their power by chasing too many directions. They start one project, then another, never finishing, never mastering. Their lives are like lanterns with holes punched in the sides. Light leaks everywhere, but no beam cuts through the darkness. By contrast, those who practice controlled attention are like searchlights, their energy gathered into one brilliant ray, sweeping the horizon and revealing a clear path. Think of Thomas Edison again. Thousands of experiments, years of labor, countless failures, all focused on a single purpose: the electric light. His discipline kept him working, but it was his controlled attention, the refusal to scatter his energy on every distraction, that made him succeed. Imagine if Edison had given up after 100 failures to chase another invention, or if he had divided his time among dozens of projects. The world might still be waiting in the dark. Controlled attention is not just about projects, but about life itself. Hill urged us to ask, where is your attention most often directed? Toward worry, complaint, and fear, or toward purpose, possibility, and faith? The mind is a garden, he said, and attention is the water. Whatever you water grows. If you pour it on weeds, weeds thrive. If you pour it on flowers, beauty blooms. And in the modern world, though Hill wrote decades ago, his wisdom feels even sharper. Distractions multiply. Voices clamor for our attention. News, noise, endless demands fracture the mind into fragments. Controlled attention becomes not only a path to success but a form of survival. To focus deeply on one goal, one task, one purpose, is to reclaim power stolen by the chaos of the world. Hill described focus as a habit that must be trained. At first, the mind wanders, restless as a child. But with persistence, you can call it back, again and again, until focus becomes natural, even joyful. When you immerse yourself in work so deeply that time seems to vanish, you are living in the strength of controlled attention. In that state, energy multiplies, creativity awakens, and progress accelerates beyond expectation. But there is also a warning here. Attention is precious because it is finite. Every day you are given only so much of it. Once spent, it cannot be reclaimed. Hill urges us to guard it fiercely, to spend it wisely, to give our focus only to that which brings us closer to purpose. Ask yourself, How much of your attention is spent on distractions, on the trivial, on what does not serve you? Imagine if all of that energy, all those scattered moments, were gathered into one direction. What mountain might you move? Consider the story of a sculptor chiseling a great block of marble. Each strike of his hammer is small, almost insignificant. But because his strikes are concentrated on the same spot over and over, the stone eventually cracks and gives way. Had he scattered his blows, the marble would remain unshaped. So it is with your own attention. Scattered blows achieve little. Concentrated blows reshape the world. And yet, even the sharpest focus will one day face storms. Life has a way of scattering us not by choice, but by circumstance. Setbacks, failures, betrayals, they strike like sudden winds, tearing at even the strongest attention. Which brings us to Hill's next key, one he considered among the most valuable: the ability to learn from adversity. For controlled attention sharpens you, but adversity shapes you. And in those moments of loss and trial, you may find treasures greater than victory itself. Adversity. The very word tastes heavy in the mouth. Like iron, it is the uninvited guest at every table, the shadow that crosses every road. And yet, Napoleon Hill taught that within adversity lies one of the greatest treasures of all, the seed of equal or greater benefit. He insisted that setbacks are not tombstones but stepping stones, shaping us in ways triumph never could. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The rain lashes, the wind tears, the path ahead is washed away. In that moment, fear whispers, "Turn back. It's over." But hidden in the storm is a lesson, a redirection, a strength that cannot be gained in sunshine alone. Hill said adversity is life's training ground, where the weak are broken, but the strong are refined. And if you can endure long enough to look beyond the pain, you will see that adversity is not your enemy, but your teacher. Consider the story of Henry Ford once more. Before his empire of automobiles, Ford faced bankruptcy, ridicule, and failure. Factories closed, investors fled. By every external measure, he was defeated. Yet within those failures, Ford gathered knowledge, lessons about engineering, production, persistence. Those setbacks became the foundation upon which his ultimate success was built. Without them, his empire would have collapsed under the weight of untested ambition. Or think of Edison's countless failed experiments. Each was an adversity, each a disappointment. Yet Edison did not call them failures. He called them discoveries of what would not work. This perspective, this reframing of adversity, was the key that allowed him to keep moving forward until the light itself broke forth. But Hill does not romanticize hardship. He does not suggest that suffering is pleasant or that obstacles are easy. Instead, he offers a challenge. When adversity strikes, refuse to see only the loss. Ask instead, what is this here to teach me? Where is the seed of benefit hidden in this trial? For just as every winter carries within it the promise of spring, every setback hides an opportunity. Hill even believed adversity performs a secret cleansing. It reveals who truly stands with you. In good times, friends may crowd around. In bad times, only the loyal remain. Adversity strips away illusions and forces you to see clearly who you are, what you value, who you can trust. Painful though it is, this clarity is priceless. Reflect for a moment on your own life. Think of a time when disappointment struck. Perhaps a lost job, a broken dream, a betrayal. At the time, it may have felt like the end. And yet, looking back now, can you see how it shaped you? How it redirected your path, toughened your spirit, or prepared you for something greater? Hill's wisdom is that this pattern is not accident but law. Adversity is a disguised blessing, though often we only recognize it after the storm has passed. He urged us too to respond to adversity with resilience, not bitterness. Many waste their hardships by sinking into self-pity, complaining, or surrendering. But those who rise, who adapt, who learn, they are the ones who transform setbacks into springboards. Like steel tempered in fire, they emerge stronger, sharper, more enduring. There is a Japanese art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with veins of gold. The cracks remain, but instead of being hidden, they are illuminated. The vessel becomes more beautiful, not in spite of its breaks, but because of them. This is the essence of Hill's teaching on adversity. Your scars are not shameful. They are proof of resilience, and they can become the most powerful part of your story. And so Hill hands us this key with quiet insistence. Do not curse the storm. Do not flee from the trial. Stand firm, learn, grow. For adversity is not a detour from the path of success. It is part of the path itself. Yet there is another force equally vital, not just to endure reality, but to imagine beyond it, to see not only what is, but what could be. Hill believed that once you had learned from adversity, you must next awaken the power of creative vision, the ability to dream a world into being and then step forward to meet it. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a blank canvas stretching endlessly before you. Upon it, you could paint anything: a home, a career, a legacy, a life yet unlived. That canvas is the future, and the brush in your hand is what Napoleon Hill called creative vision. It is not daydreaming, not idle fantasy, but the disciplined art of seeing beyond what is into what could be, and then daring to shape it. Hill believed imagination was humanity's greatest workshop. In that workshop, you can assemble ideas, test possibilities, rearrange the raw materials of thought until something entirely new emerges. Every invention, every breakthrough, every empire first existed not in reality, but in the mind of someone who refused to stop imagining. Before the light bulb lit the world, it glowed only in Edison's vision. Before Ford's automobiles filled the roads, they roared only in his imagination. Creative vision is the birthplace of all progress, but Hill made an important distinction. Imagination can be either synthetic or creative. Synthetic imagination is rearranging what already exists, useful, but limited. Creative imagination, however, taps into something deeper, almost mysterious: the subconscious mind, even the infinite intelligence that Hill believed whispers ideas to those who are prepared to receive them. Have you ever had a sudden insight, an idea that arrived uninvited, almost as though it was handed to you? That is the spark of creative vision, and like fire, that spark must be fed. Controlled attention fuels it. Self-discipline sustains it. Faith protects it. Without these, vision dies quickly, like smoke in the wind. But with them, imagination becomes not just play, but blueprint. A builder does not walk onto an empty lot and hope for a house to rise. He first holds a vision, a design detailed down to every beam and brick. So too must we hold a clear vision for the life we wish to create. Hill urged us to visualize not only our goals, but ourselves achieving them. To rehearse success in the theater of the mind until it feels inevitable. This mental rehearsal, he taught, influences behavior, sharpens decisions, and attracts opportunities aligned with that vision. The world outside begins to bend toward the world within. Yet there is danger in vision left untethered. Many dream grandly, but only dream. Their visions sparkle for a moment, then fade like fireworks. Hill insisted that true creative vision must be followed by organized planning and decisive action. Otherwise, imagination becomes a mirage, beautiful to behold, but forever out of reach. Think of a sailor standing on shore, staring across the sea toward a land he longs to reach. He imagines the island in detail, its trees, its rivers, its mountains. But without a ship, without sails, without a map, his vision remains a ghost. Another sailor, however, not only imagines the island but builds a vessel, studies the stars, gathers supplies, and sets sail. Which one fulfills his vision? The difference is simple: planning and action. Creative vision also demands courage. To see what does not yet exist is to risk ridicule. The world often mocks dreamers, calling them foolish, but history remembers those dreamers who dared to act. The Wright brothers, mocked for chasing flight, changed travel forever. Jobs and Wozniak, tinkering in a garage, reshaped how the world communicates. What they had in common was not privilege, but vision bold enough to endure laughter and persistence strong enough to silence it. Now ask yourself, what do you see when you imagine your own future? Not in vague strokes, happiness, wealth, success, but in vivid detail. What does your ideal day look like? Who is with you? What work fills your hands? Where does your energy flow? Hill would insist that until you see it clearly, you cannot build it. For how can you construct a life you cannot yet picture? So hold this vision close. Sharpen it. Nurture it. Breathe life into it every day. Then, with the keys we have already gathered, purpose, alliance, faith, discipline, focus, and the lessons of adversity, begin to build. For imagination without structure drifts into fantasy, but imagination paired with planning becomes destiny. And so, as this canvas begins to fill with color and shape, Hill leads us to the next key: organized planning and action. For the dreamer must now become the builder, and the castle of the mind must rise as stone and mortar in the world. Vision, no matter how vivid, remains only a picture unless it is set into motion. Napoleon Hill's next key is the one that transforms imagination into reality: organized planning and action. To dream is to see the mountain peak. To plan is to map the trail. To act is to take the first step upward. Without planning, dreams dissolve. Without action, even the best plans remain lifeless ink. Picture an architect. Before a single stone is laid, he spreads blueprints across his table. Every wall, every window, every beam is accounted for. He measures, adjusts, remeasures, until the design is sound. Only then do the builders begin their work. Hill taught us to treat our lives no differently. Success is not an accident. It is constructed, and the plans we make are the scaffolding upon which achievement rises. But Hill warned, planning must not become paralysis. Too many people write plans that gather dust, endlessly revised but never acted upon. Others leap into action without strategy, scattering their effort in confusion. The secret is balance, deliberate plans followed by decisive steps. Like a general before battle, one must survey the field, set a strategy, then move forward boldly, adapting as the fight unfolds. He urged us to organize our plans in writing, with clarity and detail. What exactly must be done? Who will help? What resources are required? What deadlines will be met? Vague wishes cannot withstand the test of reality. Only concrete, written plans, sharpened by thought, tested by feedback, and refined by trial, can carry the weight of a true vision. And yet, even the best plan will fail without persistence. Hill told us that many people quit too soon, discarding good plans at the first sign of difficulty. He compared it to miners abandoning a shaft just 3 feet from a gold vein. How often do people surrender just before success? The disciplined planner knows that every plan requires adjustment, every action requires patience, and every failure is simply data for revision. Think of Henry Ford once again. His early attempts to mass-produce vehicles failed repeatedly. Factories shut down, investors doubted him, critics mocked him. Yet Ford persisted, refining his plans again and again until at last the assembly line emerged, a marvel of organized action that changed the world. Had he surrendered to early setbacks, history would never know his name. Hill also reminded us of the importance of counsel. Plans made in isolation are fragile, but when tested in the furnace of a mastermind alliance, they become stronger. Allies point out blind spots, suggest improvements, lend resources. Just as a ship relies on a crew, so too do our plans rely on those who share our journey. And once the plan is in place, action must be relentless. Even small, consistent steps carry power. Imagine pushing a great wheel. At first, every shove feels futile. The wheel barely budges. But push again, and again, and again. Slowly, it begins to turn. Then momentum takes over, and what once felt immovable rolls forward with unstoppable force. Organized planning gives direction. Steady action gives momentum. Together, they carry you beyond the reach of hesitation. Now reflect for a moment. How many dreams in your own life have remained suspended because they lacked a plan? Or how many plans have you written only to leave them unacted upon? Hill's wisdom is not to shame us, but to awaken us. For the bridge between wishing and achieving is built plank by plank through planning and action. And here lies one more hidden truth. Organized planning builds confidence. The unknown always feels daunting, but a written plan turns chaos into clarity. Suddenly, the mountain is no longer an unscalable wall, but a path marked with steps. Each completed step strengthens faith. Each small victory builds momentum, until at last, the summit rises within reach. So Hill hands us this 11th key with conviction. Do not only dream, do not only hope. Organize, prepare, act. Let your plans be living maps, guiding your steps each day toward the destiny you have imagined. And now, with this map in hand, we come to the final key, the crown of all the rest. For purpose, faith, alliance, discipline, vision, and planning are powerful, but only when woven together into a life lived not just for success, but for significance. Hill called this final lesson the crown of success, the moment when achievement becomes more than wealth or power, and instead blossoms into legacy. At last, we arrive at the summit, the crown of success. Napoleon Hill never spoke of success as merely money or status. Those may be rewards along the way, but they are not the treasure itself. True success, Hill insisted, is the harmonious weaving together of all the keys, a life of purpose, enriched by alliances, fueled by faith, guided by discipline, sharpened by focus, deepened by adversity, elevated by vision, and anchored in action. When these are joined, the result is not just achievement, it is significance. Imagine a crown, each jewel representing one of the principles we have carried on this journey. One stone gleams with definiteness of purpose, another with faith, another with self-discipline, another with creative vision. Alone, each jewel is beautiful but incomplete. Together, they form a crown, a symbol not of conquest over others, but of mastery over self and contribution to the world. That is the success Hill envisioned, not the shallow glitter of fame, but the steady glow of a life well lived. Hill warned us, too, that the pursuit of success without balance leads to emptiness. A man may gain riches, yet lose peace. He may build empires, yet leave his soul impoverished. But when all the keys are applied together, wealth becomes more than money. Power becomes more than control. They become instruments for service, for lifting others, for leaving behind a legacy that endures after the body has returned to dust. Think again of the farmer sowing his fields. Each principle we've gathered is a seed. Purpose was the first seed, planted deep in the soil. Faith watered it. Discipline tended it. Adversity tested it with storms. Creative vision gave it direction. Planning shaped its growth. And now at the harvest, the farmer does not reap a single crop, but an abundant field, overflowing beyond his needs. He shares it, he feeds others, and in doing so, his success multiplies. Hill saw success as a trust, not just a possession. The truly successful are stewards of their gifts, using them to inspire, to create, to build. They walk through life not asking, "What can I take?" but "What can I give?" And in giving, they find that the universe gives back tenfold. The crown of success is not worn with pride, but with humility, for it reminds the wearer that greatness was never theirs alone. Look now at your own journey. Perhaps you began with questions, with doubts, with a longing for more, and now, with Hill's keys in your hands, you stand at the threshold of possibility. Your life is not fixed, your path not set in stone. With purpose, with faith, with discipline and vision, you can build anew. You can rise. You can create a life that not only fulfills you but echoes far beyond you. And remember, this crown is not given. It is earned. Earned through daily choices, through miles walked when no one is watching, through courage in the face of doubt, through resilience when adversity strikes. Each act of faith, each disciplined step, each generous mile adds another jewel to the crown. Until, at last, you look back and realize, you have not only achieved success, you have become success. So here, at the end of our journey with Napoleon Hill, the invitation is simple but profound. Take these keys, not as words to admire, but as tools to use. Begin with purpose. Walk with faith. Gather allies. Discipline your mind. Focus your energy. Embrace adversity. Envision boldly. Plan carefully. Act relentlessly. And in time, the crown of success will rest not on your head alone, but on the legacy you leave for those who follow. This is the promise and the challenge of Napoleon Hill's Keys to Success, that greatness is not reserved for the few, but available to all who dare to live with intention, courage, and love. Courage and love. Courage and love. Courage and love.